One race remains for the 2025 NHRA season as we have wrapped up the Nevada Nationals from the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. As it stands right now, all 4 Pro Championships are still up for grabs heading into the final race of the season. However, pretty much most of them for the points leaders have them wrapped up. About 3 of the 4 categories have close to a 100-point lead. 2 of them actually do have an over 100-point lead. But surprisingly enough, the one hotly contested championship really still left heading into the final race is in Pro Stock Motorcycle, which if you would have asked me back at the beginning of the season, I would have said that probably would have been the one that had the best chance of being wrapped up in Las Vegas. Instead, it's going to be the one that's really going to be decided on who goes further on race day. As for the other 3 championships in Nitro, they have about over a 100-point lead. It's going to take a lot for the championship to swing out of the favor of the points leaders over there. And then for Pro Stock, it's still down to the KB Titan duo of Dallas Glenn and Greg Anderson. But pretty much the best way that Greg Anderson's going to have a chance is trying to close in the points gap on race day to where he is in a position where it's only going to matter depending on who goes further through the ladder. That's going to decide that championship. We have a lot to look forward to here in our recap of the Nevada Nationals as well as our championship picks heading into Pomona. Let's get into that and then we can recap and look forward to the final race of the season. In Pro Stock Motorcycle, NHRA came in with a 61-point gap to his teammate Richard Gatson, and he would do everything in his power to try and close that gap heading into the final race of the season. In round number 1, he took out Karen Stouffer, who made her first appearance back on a motorcycle since her retirement back in 2022 at the U.S. Nationals. In round number 2, he would take out Clayton Howe, who defeated Ryan Ayler in the first round, and then in the semifinals will meet up against his championship rival and teammate Richard Gatson. Richard Gatson's road to the semis included a round 1 win against Chris Bostick and John Hall in round 2, and in a close, tight-knit race with a perfect reaction time from Richard Gatson, it would not be enough to take out NHRA, who had a 005 reaction time but was able to outright his teammate and advance to the semifinal and advance back to the final round to try and close the gap. In the final round, he meet up against Angie Smith, who defeated Fred Camarena in round number 1, defeated her husband Matt Smith in round number 2, had a red light that pretty much took him out of championship contention, and then defeated Braden Davis, who had a failure yet again in the semifinals that cost him a shot at a final round appearance. Angie Smith would make her way back to the final round to face off against NHRA in what was her best weekend of the season so far after qualifying number 2. Sadly, her luck would run out. NHRA would take the win, close the gap from 61 down to 21 points, putting him in a position to where now whoever goes further on race day will win the 2025 Pro Stock Motorcycle Championship. As you can see in the point standings right now as they sit, the 21-point gap is the difference between the 2 Vance and Hines riders. Matt Smith, 129 points out. He's close to being out of contention to being able to find the points on race day. If he can't find the points in qualifying, he'll be mathematically eliminated. Below him, Angie Smith, 163, and then Braden Davis, who is still trying to claw his way up to try and get a top 4 spot. He's close, about 20 points out of the 4th spot. I don't believe he's going to have enough to beat Matt Smith in the point standings unless something catastrophic happens in round 1 for Matt. But Braden Davis is in a good position to try and go from the 10th spot in the points and jump himself up to 4th by the end of the season. In Pro Stock, the point standings have come down to just Dallas Glenn and Greg Anderson, and much like Pro Stock Motorcycle, they would once again meet on the same side of the ladder in the same qualifying positions. Greg Anderson, qualifying number 1, would defeat Troy Coughlin Jr. in the first round and Matt Latino in the second round. It would meet up against his teammate Dallas Glenn and the current Pro Stock points leader, who qualified number 4, defeating Dave Connolly, who is subbing in for Cody Coughlin, who had a surprising departure from the team following the Fall Nationals out in Dallas. There's still word on whether or not he will be back for next season. He has said he'll be back for 2026, but there's still no announcement on where he'll be at. Dave Connolly came back in a tribute livery to the Ken Black team, who had debuted this weekend the return road at the Strip of Las Vegas Motor Speedway, named after Ken Black, which Las Vegas was his home track. Dallas Glenn would get the win over Dave Connolly. They move on to round 2 against Eric Enders. He would take that win to move on to the semifinals to have a head-to-head matchup, number 1 and 2 in the points, where Dallas Glenn would get a much-needed win to help boost his shot at the championship heading into the final round and the final race of the season. In the final round, he would once again meet up with Matt Hartford, who had qualified number 6 entering race day, took out Derek Kramer in the first round, Fernando Quadra Jr. in the second round, and Jagga Coughlin, who had a really good race day, making his way to the semifinal rounds, but sadly it would end there. Matt would make it back to the final round, but his luck would once again run out. Dallas Glenn would capture the win, extend his points lead, and now heading into the final race has close to a 100-point lead. The gap as it stands right now. 92 points is the difference between Dallas Glenn and Greg Anderson. Greg Anderson, in order to have as much of a shot as he can to win the championship, is going to have to max out on points in qualifying to give himself the best shot necessary. If not, the only thing Dallas Glenn needs to worry about is not going out in the first round. He'll pretty much have the championship on lock. Matt Hartford back in the third spot, 157 back. Aaron Stanfield, 287 back, so the top three is secured for KB Titan Racing. Fifth, Corey Reed, 350 back. So pretty much everyone from fifth on up pretty much has it locked. Everybody, I should say fourth on up is more fair to say. 350 to 287 is not really a feasible gap for Corey Reed to close down, but 365 to 350 is still really the last hotly contested spot in the championship. But as it stands on race day, Dallas Glenn sits with the best shot of getting redemption and scoring his first Pro Stock World title. In a funny car, Austin Prock entered race day with an opportunity to secure the championship a race early and give himself the best chance to do so after qualifying number one yet again. In round one, he would defeat Jason Rupert. In round two, he defeat J.R. Todd. J.R. Todd scoring his first round victory in what seems like forever, dating back to as far back as September. In the semifinals, he'd face off against Bob Taskett III, who had an incredible weekend up to that point, qualifying number 4 on race day, defeating Blake Alexander in the first, Spencer Hyde in the second, and actually having lane choice heading into the semifinals. He would try to deep stage the car to give himself the best opportunity to get the win, but Austin Prock would not be denied, making it back to the final round and moving one step closer to securing the second championship. In order to do that, he had to defeat none other than championship rival Matt Hagan, who entered race day qualified number 3, defeating Cruz Pedregon in the first round, Chad Green in the second, and Daniel Wilkerson in the semifinals. And in the final round, Matt Hagan, who had not defeated Austin Prock since Austin debuted in the funny car 2 seasons ago, would not be denied, would finally get the monkey off his back and defeat Austin Prock for the first time in his funny car career, securing the win and securing the championship fight heading into Las Vegas. It's still a wide margin for Austin Prock as he has a healthy lead heading in the final race. 101 points is the gap between the two. Jack Beckman in third, 178 points back. Realistically, not going to have a shot. Matt Hagan's going to need to do everything he can in qualifying to try and upset Austin Prock to close that gap. But now, as we know, heading into the final race, there is still a chance for Matt Hagan to score another championship and deny JFR the repeat championship victory. And in Top Fuel, Doug Coletta, the points leader entering the Nevada Nationals, also entered with a shot at clinching the championship a race early. He would enter race day, qualify number 2, and have to face off against Rob Passy in the first round. Doug Coletta would get the win, and moving on into the second round, where due to only having 13 cars, he would have a bye run straight into the semifinals. We had to face none other than his teammate and also championship rival Sean Langdon. Sean Langdon entering qualifying number 3, defeating Kelly Harper in the first round, championship rival Justin Ashley in the second round, pretty much eliminating Justin from championship contention with that second round loss. And moving into the semifinals, we'd have to face his teammate Doug Coletta and would get the win, securing the championship fight. Will also go into the final race at Pomona. Sean would get the win to move on to the final round. He had to face none other than Brittany Force, who entered race day qualified number 1. We get the bye round of the second, defeating Clay Milliken, and then defeating Tony Stewart in the semifinals. And in what is being advertised as Brittany Force's last season behind the wheel of a Top Fuel dragster, Brittany Force will go out with at least one more win, winning the Nevada Nationals and going back-to-back at the penultimate race of the season as she looks to close out her career on a high note. Looking at the Top Fuel point standings entering the final event of the season, it's still a massive margin, the widest margin that you'll see in the entire of the 4 pro categories. 144 points between Doug Coletta and Sean Langdon is the difference. Justin Ashley is 163 back in third, pretty much gonna not have much of a shot at winning the championship, if at all. Brittany Force back in 4th, Tony Stewart rebounding the 5th after falling back to, I believe, 6th or 7th. Clay Milliken in the 6th spot. Steve Torrance not returning for the rest of the season. He's fallen back to 6th. Sean Reed, your winner, or 7th. Sean Reed's in 8th. Antron Brown in 9th. And Josh Hart in the 10th spot. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you would have told me back at the beginning of the season that Pro Stock Motorcycle would be the hotly contested championship heading into the final race, I would have called you crazy. But here we are. Richard Gatson, a 21-point gap, pretty much is going to come down to whoever goes furthest on race day in order to secure that championship. For the rest of them, a lot's going to need to happen. Again, it's weird the way you look at it, because if you look at it in order from how they appear with Top Fuel number 1 down to Pro Stock Motorcycle number 4, the gap gets smaller as you go. Top Fuel, the widest margin, and funny car Austin Prock about 100-point gap. A 92-point gap is for Dallas Glenn against Greg Anderson, and then just a 21-point gap to finish it off. So It's going to be an interesting weekend down in Pomona. Pretty much a lot of the championships are locked up unless Sean Langdon, Matt Hagan, and Greg Anderson can garner a lot of points in qualifying, which there are a lot of points due to the points and a half rule heading into the final race. But with where it stands right now, with how Doug Coletta, Austin Brock, and Dallas Glenn have been, it's going to be really hard for any of those championship contenders to have a shot at closing enough of a points gap for it to really make a difference. The only one who has a really good shot of doing that is Greg Anderson. The only way that Matt Hagan and Sean Langdon are going to have a shot at winning the championship is if both Proc and Coletta have disastrous round ones, both go out in the first round, and then both those drivers have to go to the finals and win that race too. And even for Sean Langdon, he needs to garner as much points as he can in qualifying to even have a shot at it, because as it stands right now, I believe he has over a race gap between his teammates. So it's going to need a lot to happen for Sean Langdon to have a chance. Matt Hagan having a more realistic shot, but still going to be highly contested heading into the final race. We'll be live in Pomona for the finals like we were last year. I can't wait to go back out there and experience that race yet again. We're going to have interviews all weekend long with championship contenders and some of the hopefuls heading into that race, as well as looking ahead to the 2026 season as silly season has ramped up. I will have a video on that more so in the winter to try and close up the video gaps in the winter months, as there's not much happening. So we will have a silly season recap as we close out the 2025 campaign. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button down below and a notification bell. Be sure to comment what you thought of this weekend's Nevada Nationals and who you think is going to be winning the championship heading into Pomona. And of course, thank you to our friends at Peak Performance for sending us out to Pomona to cover the finals. We're going to have a lot to look forward to heading into the 2025 offseason. So if you want to stay up to date, again, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all social media pages down below. Mighty Mac 03 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And until the Pomona NHRA finals, this is Mighty Mac. We'll see you next time.